So a couple of days after the election, I started hearing them talk about, oh, well, we have to be married to get our birth control now. And for me, I just think, why did you not think about this before you made the decision to vote for him? And I'm sorry, but you don't get to vote for someone who has been so vehemently and vocally against reproductive rights and then wonder that. I don't understand.
Yeah. Well, here we are to our, I guess, episode 2 of Spelling the Heka-Tea. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Welcome back, or for the first time.
Oh yeah, or for the first time. If you haven't seen our first episode, it's a little long, a little wonky. There was some camera, ghost, fae stuff going on. There was a lot of interference. But it's still a really good episode. Since it is not only our first episode, so we had to introduce ourselves and give you guys a little preview of what the show is, what we're like, and what it's going to be about. It was also our Samhain episode, Halloween, Samhain, spooky season. And those ones, Sabbath and Espat episodes, special episodes will probably tend to be a little longer, but our average episode will be an hour at most, or a little over. But always trying to shoot for about an hour. So if you haven't seen that episode, it's really good, really funny. We discuss a lot of issues, including the term warlock and how it sounds like a big dump. Really funny, good stuff. It was a good time. Check it out.
We're not about holding back, is what we're saying.
Yeah, never about holding back. Like a Canadian TV show that we can't mention because we don't want to be sued. It goes there.
It goes there.
So, we originally, the plan was for episode 2 was going to... Oh, and if you also don't know, so our episodes air every new moon and every full moon. So that's just the easiest way to keep track of us. Every new moon, every full moon, a new episode will be up on YouTube.
We'll be all up in your face.
Exactly. So we did mention that originally episode 2, we were going to deep dive the witchcraft of Agatha all along, which we are really excited to do.
Yeah.
And that will be more of a normal segment kind of episode show. But an election happened here in the United States. So if everyone knows. An election happened.
Yes. What can we really say but that it happened?
Right. So everything we discuss on the show is within the context of witchcraft and the view lens of witchcraft. Now, witchcraft, practice, or religion, yes to both, and no to one. So, witchcraft practice, but also religion.
Yeah.
And under that umbrella, there are many, many faith paths that encompass witchcraft.
Yeah.
So we are not the monolith. We are not the end-all be-all of representation of all the different branches of witchcraft and other magical faiths. And not all magical traditions, faiths, practice paths are witchcraft.
Yeah.
So you can definitely, in voodoo, for instance, most practitioners would not call themselves witches. They're mambas. So they're they're high priestesses, and they would rarely be like, oh, I'm a witch. Now, you might have some, but most of the time they just have their own reference. So, and some people call themselves magicians, chaos magicians, and they would never call themselves witches. And witchcraft is so much more than just practicing magic in itself. There's so much more that goes into it. So that kind of our show will be, those are things we're going to explore and uncover. That being said, everything on the show is discussed through the lens of witchcraft and being witches. And so even though we're going to discuss this election, there's no way around it. And the implications, it all is through the lens of witchcraft. So we're not going to really dissect who to blame or how this happened. Facts are facts, and just the fact of the matter is, both in the electoral and in the popular vote, Donald Trump and the Republican Party just won. Yeah. They just won. Between 15 and 20 million people who voted for Obama, who voted for Biden, even turned out for Hillary. Yeah. Stayed home. They just didn't vote. They did not come out. The Democratic Party needed to offer more than just we're not Trump, because there are real issues going on, and it just didn't happen. Yeah. And, then there's everything, the ongoing genocide in Gaza and in China and other places. Like, it left a lot of bad taste in people's mouths. Harris getting promoted by the Cheneys. There's a lot of things that didn't translate. And as a result, this is where we're at. So it's not about placing blame. No. On this and discussing that, because just the facts speak for themselves. There's nothing to debate. What we need to focus on and what we're focusing on this is what now, what next.
And how this affects us as American witches.
Yeah. And worldwide witches. Yeah. Especially because the impact of this is going to reverberate through other countries, which so many have already been going right wing. And so what does this look like? And so that's what we want to talk about. And we have to, but we also have other things to talk about. Yeah.
We just felt it would be inappropriate in light of all of these recent events to get on to our channel and just talk about Agatha and not address the elephant in the room.
Literally, the elephant.
Literally.
The orange elephant.
Yes, the orange elephant.
Yeah, so before we get into all of that, let's kick it off with the horoscope astrological situation for the month of November really quick. And honestly, a lot of this, in light of everything, actually totally makes sense. Yeah. So really quick, I'll just run through these. On the 1st of November was the new moon. Day after Samhain, the veils are just getting thinner and thinner. And the new moon entered Scorpio. So a lot of introspective energy, very rough. It's a lot about asking the tough questions, having the tough conversations that we need to have with people in our lives and with ourselves. You yourself experience that. I mean, obviously, you don't need to go into details about what, but you, with your partner.
Yes. There was a lot of introspection going on between the two of us. It was a very positive introspective dialogue, but one that had been a long time coming and needed to happen and clear the air and be out in the open, just to be on a good playing field going forward.
Yeah. And so that can look, it can look like that, or it can look insanely rough and beat the shit out of you. Right. It could be.
My partner did not do that.
Right. But it could be like having the conversation of like, where's our relationship going? Or, you know, is this the job I want to stay at, or where I want to keep living, or, you know, whatever the situation is. But it's about clearing the old and bringing in the new. The 2nd of November saw Mercury enter Sagittarius. And this is stressing, especially right now. Don't let your emotions overrule your logic. Take a step back and see your behavior for what it is in reality, and not how you're perceiving it through your emotions. That could be if you get into a disagreement, a fight, actually stepping out and hearing what your friend, partner, whoever it is you're fighting with, try as objectively as possible to see and hear what they're saying, and versus like letting your emotions take over and your brain starts twisting what they're saying in your head. And, you know, just stuff like that. It's also, you know, a lot of people are, in terms of the elections, a lot of people are hurting right now. A lot of people are looking for people to blame.
Right.
Stop it. Stop. Just fucking stop. There's no one to blame. Except yourselves and them and ourselves and it's just a lot of collective blame to go around for how we got here in all aspects, not just in the electing of Donald Trump, but in the greater sense of this conservatism back into Reagan era, Reaganomics, golden yesteryear Christianity, conservatism that is especially prevalent amongst Gen Z. There's enough blame for all of us. So just use logic instead of emotion. On the 4th of March, saw Mars enter Leo, which brought in a wave of proactive passion. So whether that's for hobbies or activism, don't bake sourdough bread. If you want the recipe, get it from a book. Don't get on TikTok and find that. We'll get into that at some point. Just no to trad wifing. But if you have a passion for something, now is the time, and you probably have felt the urge to create and start something new. We're doing this. So there you go.
Basically, our answer to trad wifing is trad witching.
Yes, trad witching. So direct that wisely. Don't expel whatever passionate drive and energy you're feeling and just put it into something else. Don't do that. So the 17th of November, we'll see Venus enter Capricorn. This is about very much earthly energies, grounding yourself. Reach out to your foundations, the people in your life, your loved ones, your friends, the people who are your solid ground, who help create the mosaic beauty that is you. Check in with them. It's been a lot of self-serving interest right now, for all of us, I think, and I think we aren't checking in with each other as much as we should be, so go ahead and do that. Yeah, I winked at you. So on November 7th, that was on the 11th of November. The 11th of November, Venus enters Capricorn. I'm sorry. I'm left-handed, so my handwriting is chicken scratch, and sometimes even I can't read it. November 15th, Saturn leaves retrograde. Now, we talked about this. The retrograde was about seeing beyond ourselves and getting out of our own way so we can see other people's. Now it's about moving into putting the things that we have observed and seen into practice in our relations to how we communicate with the people in our lives. So hopefully you guys have been taking in and getting in, really thinking about others and in your life and the people you care about. And now is the time to kind of put in what you've seen and communicated with them into your relationship with them. So on the 15th, so when this episode is airing, the full moon will be entering Taurus. So this is about having our needs met. This is a very wonderful time for witchcraft. So if you are a witch, this is your time, because the energy of this full moon is going to be high octane manifestation. So if you are a witch who can manifest, if you are just a witch who's just looking for a reason to cast a spell and you've been waiting for that charged time, this is it. So it's good for starting or finishing whatever practice you are putting, magical manifestation or spell work, you are putting into practice. And of course, this is the beaver or the frost or morning moon. So if you work with spirits, if that is kind of your lane, if you're a hedge witch, as the kids like to call themselves. No, I mean, also people who aren't kids call themselves hedge witches. I thought hedge witch was like another term for like, I'm a green witch, like hedges.
I did too.
Like cutting hedges. Like, and then I found out that I was a hedge witch all along, and then I was like, well, I'm not going to call myself that.
Right.
I am just a witch. I just like witch. I don't need other titles. So if you work with spirits, if you work with elemental energies, if you work with the Fae, you're going to feel the shift at on the moon, on the 15th. So now November 19th, Pluto enters Aquarius. This is the big uh-oh. So historically, whenever things impactfully chaotic happen in history, it happens at this time. So this includes the 2008-2009 financial crisis, which was the last time that Pluto entered Aquarius. So buckle up. This is also, it's just a time of deep transformation, evolution, progress, etc. But it comes at the cost of destruction. So whether that's going to be a personal in your life, or we're all about to get crushed by possibly another epic financial crash. Buckle up. Buckle up. November 21st, the sun enters Sagittarius. So, girl, put that record on and let your hair down. Enter in...
As all the Sagittarius like to do.
Exactly! As we talked about in our last episode.
Exactly.
Sagittariuses are the free spirits of the fire sign. They are the forest fire that gets caught up in the wind and then goes and decimates half the land. But then out of all of the decimation of manic pixie girl and pixie boy image that they are, beach nymphs, they can really teach us a lot about being more impulsive and kind of trusting our inner child to take the lead.
I am an Aries, and I also have a lot of earth placements, so I can be very rigid about things and not allow myself to get out of that one little area that I tend to see the world.
Right.
And my partner is a Sagittarius, and I've always said that my favorite thing about her is that she gets me out of my comfort zone.
This is true. This is true.
And I think conversely, I am a force of grounding for her, and that's what I think makes us work out very well.
See, and yeah, I love that. I love that. So yeah, put that record on and, girl, let your hair down.
Exactly.
It's the time. November 26th, Mercury goes into retrograde again. This is all about communication, miscommunication, electrical things like phones and stuff fucking up, going off, just not working correctly, but also just not understanding each other, even ourselves. Just buckle up for a lot of misunderstandings and just try to be as clear and concise with your communication and what you're trying to say to people as much as possible. Because otherwise it's gonna suck. And it just, to damper on that, a little reminder, Uranus, Neptune, and Jupiter are all still in retrogrades until next year. I believe all of them are. I'm pretty sure Jupiter for sure is all the way into next year. So this is an auspicious time. But we soldier on.
Yes.
So, with that being said, let's get into it.
Let's get into it.
Okay. So, Trump has won.
Yes. Unfortunately.
And the Republicans, it looks like, will have control of all branches of the government, as well as the Supreme Court, which they're already in control of and will probably gain more seats.
Right.
Why does this matter? Why, as a witch, does this matter? Well, we know why, as Americans and human beings, this matters, and what is at stake for marginalized peoples, minorities, blah, blah, blah. You have to remember that as witches, you are also marginalized. You are part of this marginalized community.
Yeah.
Most Republicans are Christian, Catholic, Baptist. Some they're just conservative biblically.
Yes.
In a very born again, be saved, count on Christ coming, Armageddon, war between God and the devil, and this is all going to happen. The Left Behind series, people are going to be delivered and saved and rise up, and we will all be left behind. And they really believe this. And they also really firmly, deeply, desperately believe that at the heart of everything worked evil machinations being done on this earth and service and allowed to proliferate, at the center of it are witches, Satanists, whatever. They don't make a difference. There's no differential for them between Druid, Wiccan, Dianic. There's no Gardenian, Alexandrian. There's no difference.
No. If you're not Christian, you're of the devil.
And you practice occult things. You do occult things. You have an interest in the occult. You are a witch, whatever. You communicate with spirits, whatever. You're in their eyes, you're a witch.
Yeah.
And they do firmly believe, even if the Christians in your life who are assholes to you, maybe they're assholes, but they don't believe that you yourself are part of some cabal that's like killing babies and trying to control the government and the world through occult secret societies and all this shit that in the end just all leads back to the devil for them. Like, they might not think you're part of that cabal, but they still believe that there is an organized unit of witches, Satanists, occultists, whatever, who are. And and they believed the whole Pizzagate fucking, QAnon, children, adrenochrome shit. That all just stems from the satanic panic of the 80s and further back to the witch hunt.
Yeah.
That's it. And they really firmly still believe this. Many Republicans ran for office in a lot of their towns. And unfortunately, of course, as you would expect, a lot of these were in the South. But they seriously ran and won their campaigns on weeding out the witches and saying witches by name in their campaign ads and clarifying what they meant. And there is a lot of rhetoric within the evangelical community, within the Christian conservative worldview, doctrine, and community talk about, and always has been, about Satanists, Satan, devil worshippers, witches, witchcraft. We're the real enemies. They have hell houses, at churches. They're Christian-based haunted houses that are such bullshit. Like, about, like, you walk through hell and see, like, a gay person went to hell.
Right.
And, Matthew 1 was really I remember this. Oh, my God, it's probably 20 years ago now. But, I remember on the news where a hell house literally had a Matthew Shepard thing in it. And it was Matthew Shepard was in hell and being gay about, and if you don't know, if you're too young, Matthew Shepard was a young gay man in Laramie, Wyoming, in 1998, the fall of 98, who was robbed, beaten, shoes taken, beaten to death, and then tied and left for dead to a deer fence out in the cold Wyoming desert. It was horrible and horrific and awful and gross, and the Christians have loved doing nothing but trying to tell us about how Matthew Shepard is burning in hell.
Right. And I actually grew up in Wyoming as a gay kid, in a largely gay family, actually. My mom is at least queer. Lots of lesbians in my life growing up, in my close inner circle. And so, like, growing up I hadn't really necessarily 100% accepted the fact that I was gay.
Right.
But I was aware that most of my family was.
Yes.
And just growing up in a family like mine in Wyoming in the 90s, I just remember what a cultural shock and impact that had on me as a young child.
Yeah. Yeah. And I helped start. I didn't do it myself. I did it with my best friend, Shelly. But my best friend and I at the time, when we were freshmen in high school, because of it, started one of Washington State's first ever gay straight alliances. Actually, I think it was the first, actually, in the state. And that was a whole nightmare because no kid, especially 14-year-olds, were coming out in 1998. So, so these hell houses are just whatever, right? They're just awful. They'll show someone is in hell for having an abortion, it's just fucked up shit that they use to scare people. And
I always think it's very interesting how much of Christian culture going back through the centuries is deeply rooted and based in fear.
Oh, exactly. I know. And and that just persists. There is no Christianity, especially American Christianity, without fear.
Exactly.
And so they have these hell houses. They see Halloween as the devil's birthday, which, their Bible doesn't say anything about Lucifer being but whatever. And by the way, Lucifer is derived from Lucifera, which was one of Hecate's epithets for because she was the morning dawn, the morning sun, and she was Hecate Lucifera. And so just keep that in mind, and we're not going to do it in this episode because this is so much more. We are going to have an episode kind of dealing with the Heka-Tea of it all, and why out of all the deities, she has been enemy number one of the church from the get-go. And it's not, you can simplify it too because she is the mother goddess of witchcraft and witches, but she's more than just the mother of witches. So there's a whole lot there, and we will have one of our future episodes coming up soon. We'll get into the Heka-Tea of it all. And, but
anyway,
they just have their perceptions of Halloween. They take us very seriously. They will pray in war and wage spiritual warfare on all the witches and that they believe are throwing spells at them on Halloween night. It's kooky, but they really do believe this, and it's dangerous. And when you have where these people are going, especially when they're wrapped up in these QAnon quasi-metaphysical New Age beliefs that are now enwrapped in Donald Trump.
Yeah.
It's a whole different ballgame. It's not Republican Classic anymore. And so it's a good, so we need to talk about it.
Yeah.
And what do we do now that we're here? We want you guys to be prepared and have a little knowledge. So, where do we go from here, Evanne? As witches.
You know, I wish I could tell you a straight answer. I wish I knew.
I think, first and foremost, we need to look at ourselves as a community of witches, and
we need to be prepared to do what we need to do to protect ourselves as a community.
Yeah. And I know a lot of you out there are Wiccan. I know a lot of you out there are Wiccan, and I know a lot of you adhere to Wicca and the Wiccan Read, and, you know, and harm none, do what thou will, be it the whole of the law, never mind the law of three, whatever you do comes back to thee. And I get that it can make you hesitant, and I get that it makes it more for defensive magic, where you are more like, well, I'll send them away, or I'll bind them, banish them, whatever. Whatever non-malefic thing, a baneful thing. Whatever, you know, kind of just feel-good thing you can do the best you can. Because you're really paranoid and afraid of the law of three beating you in the butthole. Butt punch!
Right in the butthole.
Sometimes it's okay. I think that we lose nuance.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as we've stated in our previous video, and we'll state again, we are not Wiccan.
We are not.
We do not adhere to the Wiccan Read or the Law of Three. No. The law was originally just do what thou wilt, be it the hold of the law. So the law of magic is do what thou wilt. Like, do what thou will within your own moral compass, within your own understandings of right and wrong. But magic is just magic. And a lot of systems of magic are all about the hexing. But there is nuance. You can still be all about the law of three and worry about all that stuff. But there are times when it's baneful magic is justified.
Yeah.
In times of war. And in times of survival.
In times of danger.
In times of danger. I know as witches we like to be like, no, we don't eat babies. We're not wicked. We don't hex, curse. We're not coming for your crops. We're not gonna come for your cattle's milk. We're not gonna steal your babies in the night. Which, unfortunately, these people, a lot of people believe this, actually believe that shit.
Yeah.
Like, that I'm just using as an example, old tales of what we would do.
Right.
There are people who still actually believe it.
Absolutely.
But a hunt is coming. As we said, as mentioned, politicians, this just even in this cycle, literally ran on, we're going to weed out witches. And get rid of the witches who are hurting the children. Because they are down this QAnon hole, and unfortunately, there's a rise of conservatism and evangelism through social media through TikTok of all places that is taking hold, and people are now, because of the lockdown, Trump, just all these things, people now are feel really emboldened to say and do whatever the fuck they want to do whenever they want to. And I know we're not alone in living in places where people are randomly just opening up gunfire on the roads all the time because someone cut them off. Like, crazy shit is going down now.
Exactly.
And the sad thing is mostly these people would also, I guarantee you, identify as Trump voters.
Oh, 100%.
Which is also fucking crazy. But I really doubt that. I mean, it could be, but...
I really think that there is such a selfishness to the Trump voter.
Yeah.
I think that is one thing, that the common trait that bands them all together is just this inability to see beyond their own nose.
Exactly.
You know, they're not thinking in terms of what does this mean for myself and my fellow Americans. They're thinking, how cheap is the gas in my tank going to be?
Yeah. And, you know, as you said, you work with people who...
I do, yes. I am...
who have gay kids who still turn around and voted for Trump.
Exactly.
Even though their kids are literally on the hit list. They're on the chopping block. They, like... And I have family members who did the same.
Yeah.
And for those of you who are joining us new and who don't know, I'm a published author, so I don't have coworkers to deal with.
Right.
That's why I had to point out to her. I'm not just like, oh, Evanne, our example for everything. I don't leave my home. I write horror novels, like, with boys making out.
Right.
I write scary books. I'm a horror author.
And I edit your scary books, but I also go to my day job,
which is in a
legal assistant.
Yes, in a law firm. So,
and I'm working in a very predominantly conservative office. I think I am one of two of my coworkers who are liberals, and the rest are very conservative. And it's really been eye-opening because I don't have anyone really in my life that's like that beyond like extended family that I may speak to on the phone every Christmas.
Right.
But they're not at large a part of my life.
Yeah.
They're not a part of my day-to-day. So until I was working in this office, I really had no concept for the way that these people behave, and just being around them day to day in the course of just doing business together, it's been very eye-opening for me, to say the least.
Yeah. And I mean, it's been eye-opening for me, just to hear about it.
Yeah.
Like, every time you tell me something, it blows my mind because I can't conceive of every time, especially when I'm like, oh, they're so pro-gay. Like,
right.
Or pro just queer everything in general, but then or they're a woman.
Right.
They're a woman.
Right.
Oh my God, please, like, don't name any names, but can you just say the quote that was said in the office by one of your coworkers?
Which one?
About the birth control.
Oh, yes. So, actually, I'm the only woman in my office who is a liberal. So, mind you, all of these women voted for Trump. And we have a very female-led office. There's maybe a couple of guys, and it's 75% women.
Right.
Most of whom voted for Trump, except for me. So a couple of days after the election, I started hearing them talk about, oh, well, we have to be married to get our birth control now. And for me, I just think, why did you not think about this before you made the decision to vote for him? And I'm sorry, but you don't get to vote for someone who has been so vehemently and vocally against reproductive rights, and then wonder that.
Like,
I don't understand.
Yeah, no insight. So, it's just, an overwhelming situation that we now find ourselves in. And I think when you are having to kind of face the reality that so many around you actively voted this way, especially while claiming to love insert X person, marginalized, whatever,
right.
here, it's very like, oh, well, they'll come for the bad ones, but this one, my friend, my loved one, whatever, they're not a bad, they're a good one. Well, no, there's no difference. So I'm thinking and knowing, knowing first that things are going to get really bad. I mean, we all know it's just going to get really bad. In a very scary, dystopian theocratic kind of way. This is not Republican classic. This is something else, and it's steeped in end times beliefs.
Yes.
Most Zionists are Christians. Why? Because they believe that Megiddo, that Christ, that is where he's going to return. And they want, and George W. Bush even said this on, I think it was either 60 Minutes or 2020, back in, when he was president in 2000. I want to say it was 2004 when he was running for second term against John Kerry. He was being interviewed. It was talking about control of the Middle East, Israel, all that shit. And basically admitted to they want to be there with an American flag and a welcome sign to Jesus.
Right. Because
they want Jesus to be on America's side. They are cozying up to Israel and are supportive of Israel and everything because they believe that they have to hitch themselves to God's chosen people, the Jews, to then, when Christ comes down, get favored too, or as well, let's use proper grammar, as well, but that the presence of Jesus will basically eradicate the non-believing Jews. It's all fucked up.
Yeah.
But in the end, Christians are the winners, not anybody else.
And I just think...
And they want America to be there and be the official brand of Jesus. And they really believe this. These are people who are in office, people who are in power, people who are making all the decisions for especially America. And the thing is if you're watching this in another country, what happens here reverberates throughout the Western world and has mighty influence. And there's already huge Poland, there's already huge right-wing countries that have gone so far to the right that they are terrifying in their laws and the things that you can and cannot do if you're caught. And in some of those places, that does include practicing witchcraft, the occult, etc. And they want that here.
They do.
They would love nothing more, elected officials would love nothing more, for example, than to be using legal powers to shut down every witchcraft shop, occult shop, every satanic temple, every Wiccan church, temple, the goddess. They want to literally be able to use the law to shut this stuff down. And they're open about that. They're open about that.
And I just, another thing that I think is kind of an interesting point in question is if you take cities that build their tourism on being witchy, like Salem or Savannah
or New Orleans,
when that happens, what happens to those cities' economies?
Right, because they could see the threat of funding being taken away if they don't shut these things down.
Right.
And the thing is like, I remember growing up and like, hearing evangelist preachers on television, on like TBN and CBN, like these big Bible networks talking about like basically that all of Salem, Massachusetts needs to be like shut down and cleansed and start again.
Right.
Like, and they're not joking about when Katrina happened and came for New Orleans, they blamed it on the gays and on witchcraft and voodoo and the occult, and said that God had punished New Orleans for being what it was and doing what it did. And they really believed these things. And then when they were talking about reopening things, there were people on the religious right in power who were trying to prevent a lot of these shops and stores and things from reopening. Like, obviously they didn't succeed because at the time we still had a government that actually made sense and followed the laws. Right. And there was just no way you can in a country of free enterprise, right, you can't you just can't do that. Right.
But things are different now.
Things are different now. And we're seeing it already we're seeing it already in other aspects, other places, other factors. We're seeing gay bars now constantly get raided for public indecency pornography and constantly getting raided by the police and shut down and having their liquor license suspended. And it's coming. And what that's going to look like, I don't know. I don't know. Is it going to be legislative? What does it look like? I don't know. Is it going to be more guerrilla, where it's just people are feeling more emboldened? And if you walk down the street and you either are very obviously witchy, or let's say you have a pentacle or a pentagram on, and they don't think they actually know what it is and not think it's the Star of David. Because I cannot tell you how many times in my life I have had people think that I was Jewish. Yeah. Because they thought that if I was wearing a pentacle, or if I was wearing a pentagram, that it was the Star of David. And I'd be like, no, that's, which was originally the Seal of Solomon. But whatever. Well, whatever. It's originally a magical symbol, but whatever. Anyways, well, I guess ritualistic, Kabbalistic, which is Jewish mysticism. So I got another magical branch of practice that is not witchcraft. And I mean, you could be a witch and incorporate it, but again, another form of magical system that is Jewish and you would not call yourself a witch. I don't know what you would. If you practice Kabbalah, I don't know what you would call a Kabbalist. Kabbalist.
I think I've heard that term.
Because isn't it like Kabbalistic? Like you'd be like Kabbalistic practices. So whatever. You wouldn't call yourself a witch. No. You would not identify as a witch. So
unless you specifically identified as a witch who also happened to be Jewish.
Yes.
But you're not a witch because you're Jewish.
Right, and you're not a witch because you practice the Jewish mysticism, magic, Kabbalah. You just, that's not witchcraft. You can incorporate it if you are a witch who is Jewish, then there you go, but it on itself is not. But we digress. Right. But if you run into someone on the street who knows what the difference, they might decide to put a bullet in your head.
Right.
Scary but true. When Stormy Daniels icon. And we really hope that she'll like come on our show someday. We want to talk to her.
If you're watching this, hit us up.
Hit us up, please, or let us hit you up. I'm having my publicist contact you. Please, we want to talk to you about your witchcraft.
We do.
But, Stormy Daniels is a witch and has been practicing witchcraft since she was 13 years old. Her daughter is a witch. And when she was to testify against Trump, apparently his team actually tried to stop her from testifying, from taking the stand, by using her being a witch against her and saying that she was not trustworthy to have on the stand because she was a witch. She has had her life threatened since the trial and is on the run and basically lives on the run in an RV. And she gets threats from Trump supporters and constantly death threats. And a lot of those threats, also make reference to her being a witch. It's very scary out there. There are people out there who are witches who experience violence, and in America, we're talking about here in the United States and everywhere.
Yeah.
But
I mean, if I look back on my childhood, and this is such a minuscule situation compared to like what so many others have gone through, but I experienced really bad bullying when I was a kid, and so much of it was in reference to being a witch.
Yeah. So I experienced it as well. My freshman year of high school, it was the same year of Columbine. So imagine me, just imagine this, but 14, because nothing really changed. That I didn't have tattoos or facial hair, whatever, but
I'm a little shorter.
Yeah, but I was like enemy number one. I was a huge target by the administration. The year before in middle school, all middle school, I was teased for being a witch. And in 8th grade, it culminated in having kids literally go and report me and say that I was scaring them and threatening them to cast spells on them, which wasn't even true. But they were just assholes, popular kids, and they had been two of them had been former friends who, when it started becoming obvious that I was accepting the fact that I was gay, so then it was becoming no longer objective reality. It was becoming a real, tangible thing. It wasn't ephemeral. They turned on me. It was really bad. But they said that I had threatened to cast spells on them, and I was taken out of class, and the security guard broke into my locker. Made me open it, and when I couldn't, I was like, I don't remember the combination. Broke into it, opened it, and I had two spell books in there, and then I had a sketchbook. And on the back of the sketchbook, I had this really cool interlocked pentacle that I had drawn, and it was just really cool. I was really proud of it. And he kept being like a pentagram, and he kept flipping it upside down, and I was like, no. And like he would be like, and it was just this whole thing. So then like we had to like get citations from the Supreme Court ruling of like, I think it was like the Army versus the U.S. Army versus the Church of Wicca, 1990 or something like that. And it was when the Supreme Court basically said Wicca is a religion, you cannot discriminate, and so therefore, so I wasn't Wiccan, but like, whatever, I'll say I was Wiccan. Yeah, I'll say Wiccan.
Certainly back at that time, like, as far as they were concerned, it all fell under the same
umbrella, just Wicca, witchcraft. You look on the back of the spell books, it would say in the subject, in the top corner of the back cover, Wicca/witchcraft. it was a lot.
Yeah.
And it was a dark time and scary, and I, throughout my life, have experienced persecution on and off throughout my life for being a witch, and openly being a witch.
I was discriminated against at my most recent job before my current job for being a witch.
Yeah.
I was very much singled out by one partner at my law firm at the time, who was very nice to almost everyone else in the office. Oddly, there was another coworker that I had who was also a witch, but she was more understated about it than I was.
Right.
I've never been one to hide it. I will wear my pentagram proudly.
Yeah.
If anyone asks me my plans on Halloween, I will tell them I'm running right over to Marcus's house so we can do ritual together. Right. You know, I'm not at the place where I'm ever going to hide who I am religiously. You know.
No, I need my draperies.
Oh yes. So yeah, I got very like targeted and singled out in my work, and it all just
Pardon me.
Yes. All just came to a head. It was...
Oh, excuse me, Sam.
Oh, yes. Just the most toxic work experience I've ever gone through in my adult life. And it all stemmed from my being a witch. So it's definitely not something that's ever been in the past. No.
Nor should it ever be.
No.
Proudly hold your broom, stand high.
Mm-hmm.
So it was bad then. It's a whole new era now.
Yes.
So what we want to say is on this, and what I think is, it's time that as a community we need to look at ourselves. We need to look at kind of how we've been presenting ourselves and realize that we are a marginalized community, and we're about to experience some shit, and a lot of witches are queer.
Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
the amount of witches that are queer, like the amount. I know that there are heterosexual witches out there, but
I think there's such a higher percentage of witches who are a part of the LGBT blah 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 community.
It just
I don't know how many letters we have at this point.
I know it's
we have the alphabet. It's fine, but regardless,
so many of
us are a part of the community, and I don't think you can really talk about one without addressing the other.
No,
you know?
And so many people of color.
Yes.
So it just...
And hey, we hit all 3 boxes.
Right. So, there is there's a storm coming.
Yeah.
And it's time to witch up.
Mm-hmm.
If you are using baneful craft, malefica, for righteous, just cause, protection, whatever, like, the enemy is coming and it's either fight or die, you fight. And you use the tools that you have available. And the biggest one we have is our magic.
Yes.
Is
our power.
Yeah, our spellcraft. Like, you may be one witch, but if we all organize as witches, as a people, and say, no, we're not gonna take it. We're not lying down. We're not just gonna accept this. We're not gonna wait. Like, if you attack, we're gonna... Like, maybe it's the time to start throwing hexes. Like, are you really concerned about... I mean, I don't know. Are you really concerned about the law of three when it comes to Donald Trump.
I'm not.
Like, I mean, I'm never concerned about the law of three.
True.
I'm not bound to it.
No.
But if you are bound to it, there is wiggle room.
Exactly.
I'm just saying, like, there's just a time that, she got a text. There's just a time that, for action. And a time to embrace all of what you are as a witch.
Yes.
And what it means to be a witch. And sometimes that means to be wicked. There's a pleasure in the power of it. And it also is kick ass. Like, it just is kick ass. And right now we need to kick ass. Like, fuck cute little binding spells. Like, throw some hexes. Like, burn some photos. Hex some shit. Like,
exactly. This, like, if there is one time in our lifetimes to go dark and use your dark power,
this is now.
For light, it's now.
Yes. And there can be no light without dark and no dark without light. And as children of Heka-Tea, as we are dedicated, because obviously there are witches out there who don't work with Heka-Tea or any deity.
Yeah.
But for us and how just everything around Heka-Tea, and again, we will have an episode that really will explain why we specifically are spelling the Heka-Tea, why there is such, like, we will get into that. But in another episode. But as children of Heka-Tea, there is a tap into the darkness, the rage, the vengeance, the fury be thine guide, and hex an asshole when they need to be freaking hexed.
Exactly.
And there's a lot of assholes right now. And now's the time to start throwing preventive witchcraft out there before January.
Absolutely.
Like, that's the thing, is this is the time to be doing it. This is the time, witches. This is the time to put on your conical hat. This is your time to put on your cloakeries, your draperies. This is the time to feel your most around the cauldron, holding your broomstick, cackle.
Exactly.
And fuck some shit up.
I don't know about y'all, but we will be over here indulging ourselves as the wicked witches of the West Coast.
Exactly. And if you work with a coven, whether it's through socials or other online places or in person, like, start organizing spell times with your coven members or with your circle members where you're like, okay, well, you know, we're going to focus on this politician or that politician. Right. Like, I mean, this law or that law or this situation. And we're going to collectively, as a coven, as a cackle of witches, as a murder of witches, as a coven, as a circle, as a family, as a community, as a people of witches. Now is the time, now is the hour, ours is the magic, ours is the power.
I mean, I think that the more energy that even you as one witch builds, but if it's 2, if it's 4, if it's 6, if it's 13, the more energy that we as a witch community can build, the more protection we will have against what is to come.
Exactly. And I mean, I know so many of you love to operate in the place of light, and you want to be the light keepers and the light workers, and now's the time for the love and the healing. No, now's the time for vengeance.
Exactly.
Now is the time for offensive magic, not defensive, offensive magic.
Exactly.
Before January. Now is the time. Now is the hour. Ours the magic, ours is the power.
I mean, and like we were talking about, like, there can be no darkness without light. We believe that witchcraft is both, because the universe is both.
Yes.
And it is all. But I think, especially as for this time that we're experiencing right now, I just think that right now is the time when we really need to draw on that dark force, that dark energy, the dark power, because that's the only way that we are going to lead the world back into any light.
Exactly. And we got a window, which is the time to take it, whatever gains we can get, and just be prepared for what's to come. That's the most important thing. Just be prepared. That being said, though, if you are able, if you feel strong enough, then do not go back into the broom closet. If anything, hold that broomstick even higher into the air.
Exactly. And
remember, the sword and the dagger are the witch's weapon. So, So
grab your swords and daggers, witches.
Yeah. Maybe start learning to fight. Learn to really use them. Mm-hmm. You can incorporate them in so many ways into life. With that being said,
really... How did you stir this punch, Marcus? Oh, I used my dagger.
Exactly. You mean you don't chop garlic and onions with your athame? Really quick, so to end on a lighter note, kind of lighter note, so November is the season of death. We have Dios de los Muertos, Samhain, Halloween, All Souls Day, All Souls Day, All Saints Day.
Even the death card, the card of Scorpio, the season of November.
Yes, it's all about death. And the veil is thin and will continue to just get thinner and thinner all through Yule. Yeah. So apparently there's this idea that I have come across where it's called, it's basically that, like, things like last rites or whatever, dealing in grief, funerals, whatever, are acts of earth soul, are ways of breaking earth/soul contracts. So supposedly when our loved ones die, people die, it's our job to release them through active ritual or whatever, because if not, they will not be able to, our love will keep them here and they will not be able to move on, and they will become earthbound. Thoughts on this? What in your experience with spirits and your thoughts on it, what do you think of this?
I personally do not agree. I think that most spirits, obviously, unless it's some entity, but most spirits are energy that used to be human. And as we've talked about in this episode, most humans are very selfish.
Oh, yeah.
Inherently selfish.
Horrendous.
Driven through life by selfish pursuits.
Yes.
And I really don't think that stops with death, because, like, I'm sure you've experienced the same, but so many of the spirits who have reached out to me, it's because they want something.
Yeah.
They continue to be selfish after death because they are human. That's what we are driven by as humans, So I think that...
And yes, there can also be grief, loss, confusion,
of course.
Where they're just confused, don't realize they're dead. But by and large,
yes.
If they know that they're dead, they're hanging around. They want something.
They do. So, for me, it just doesn't fit with anything I've experienced with specters.
Yeah.
the things that they will typically be tied to the earth for some reason will be correlating to, you know, their memories of a certain place or even a certain person when they were humans, but it's not on the end of that other person. It's on their end.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's what I think.
Yeah, I've rarely encountered where somebody else is keeping someone, is holding them back. Yeah, it's always...
It's more on the end of, like, you know, the spirit doesn't want to move on from the plane because they
have unfinished business.
Yeah, because they can't...
Even if it's selfish, it's still unfinished business.
Yeah. You know, it could be something as simple as they died young and their partner is still alive and they don't want to see them move on with someone else.
Yeah. Even like Gloria. We all saw that terrible movie.
Right. It's 9 times out of 10 it's going to be something like that if it's anything related to another person.
Yeah. I agree. I could probably count on one hand how many times I've encountered a spirit, or one that's approached me, whatever, that, it was like because they were confused or because they were sad or whatever, almost every time it was some greedy, selfish reason,
right.
Usually having to do with you providing them a human body to take control of, whether it's yours or somebody else. Most of the time, a lot of times they're just looking for a way to come back.
Right.
And
because who could resist being able to pinch someone's nose again?
Right, exactly. I mean, that's the highlight of life. So with that being said, we obviously don't really have any witch media to review this episode, as this episode did not go the way we had planned for it to go. That will be the next episode, and it's Agatha. So we might have something else that will at the end of it, but it's pretty much just Agatha. And we are going to talk about a couple other cute things. But yeah. We just felt we had to address this in a real way. Again, please tell us what you think. What are your thoughts? How are you dealing with this as a witch? How is the elections and where the direction of things going affecting your craft? Is it affecting your craft? Is it causing you to rethink how you practice magic? Or if you are a spiritual, religious, faithful witch, worship deity or follow religious path, Wicca, whatever, Gardenian, Alexandrian, or if you follow deities, if there's a religious component and not just the magical craft component of it for you, has it shifted how you're looking at your religious magical practice, witch practice? Also, what are your thoughts on the whole earth/soul contract idea? Do you agree, disagree? What are your experience? If you have experiences with spirits, what are your experiences with them? What have you experienced? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to, if you love it, don't forget to like the video, share it, and obviously, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And until next time, always remember, a broomstick, not just for cleaning.